In this lesson, we're going to learn how to simplify radicals as well as multiply and divide radicals. So here at the top of the page, you have a partial list of perfect squares. Here's your x value, here's the value squared. So when you're going to simplify radicals, come up here and look and see if you have a perfect square before going through the process. And we will be using your calculators for this lesson. So let's start with this first one. We have the square root of 36. If I look up here, I find 36, which means its square root is 6. Moving to the next one, I have the square root of 8. So the way we're going to do this one's pretty simple, but I want to walk you through the calculator. From your home screen, you want to click on the icon down towards the bottom of the screen that looks like a U, and it's going to bring up this screen right here. And up here, you're going to put in 8 divided by x, hit enter, then menu, table, split screen. And over here, these are different values of x's that divide into 8. And this is the column you want to look for. You want to scroll until you find a perfect square, which in this case is 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite the square root of 8 as the square root of 4 times the square root of 2. And you're always going to put your perfect square first. Square root of 4 is 2, so it simplifies to 2 square root of 2. All right, moving down to 81. 81 is a perfect square. Square root is 9. 50 is not a perfect square. So I'm going to come back to my calculator, hit Control, Clear, and it's going to come down here where I have 8 divided by x. And I'm going to change the 8. I'm going to hit Delete, and I'm going to change that to 50 divided by x and hit enter. And then again, I'm going to start scrolling down. 50 is not a perfect square. 25 is. So I'm going to rewrite this as the square root of 25 times the square root of 2, and this gives me 5 square root of 2. Okay, now, coming to this problem, the first thing we have to do is simplify the square root of 175. So again, I'm going to go over to my calculator. I'm going to enter 175 divided by x, and I find the first perfect square is going to be 25. Okay, so I carry my 17 over, and I'm going to multiply it by the square root of 25 times the square root of 7. This is going to give me 17 times 5, square root of 7, and then I'm going to multiply my 17 and my 5. 17 times 5 is 85, so this simplifies to 85 square root of 7. Continuing on, using your calculator, now you'll notice that there appears to be a negative sign in front of here. So I'm going to carry that negative sign. When I use my calculator, I find that the largest perfect square is 36. So I have the square root of 36 times the square root of 2, which gives me negative 6 square root of 2. Here I have two radical numbers multiplying together. You're going to multiply the values outside of the radical. That's going to give me 16. And then you're going to multiply the values inside the radical, which gives me 18. The next thing you're going to do is see if you can simplify the radical. And we can. We carry the 16. 18, the largest perfect square, is 9. So we have the square root of 9 times the square root of 2. The square root of 9 is 3. So we have 16 times 3, square root of 2. 16 times 3 is 48. So this simplifies to 48 square root of 2. Moving on to division, the first thing I'm going to do is split this into two radicals. Square root 169 divided by the square root of 225. And then I'm going to look at my table. 169 is a perfect square. Square root is 13. 225 is also a perfect square. Square root of 15. Okay. Now, the next one, I have a whole number divided by a radical. You cannot leave the radical in the denominator. So we're going to multiply it by an equivalent fraction of 1. And that's going to be square root of 2 over the square root of 2, because what we want to do is remove the radical in the denominator. And since I have the square root of 2 over the square root of 2, this is equivalent to 1. So our value's not changing. The way the fraction looks is. So this becomes 3 square root of 2. When you take a square root and multiply it by itself, the answer is simply going to be the value under the radical sign. So we have 3 square root of 2 divided by 2. Okay. In this next example, you might be tempted to reduce 3 and 6 because 3 is a factor of 6. But notice, 3 is in the radical, 6 is not. So you cannot reduce from outside to inside the radical. So I'm going to do the same thing or a similar process to the previous problem. I'm going to multiply it by an equivalent fraction of 1. But in this case, because I want to take care of the square root of 3, I'm going to multiply by the square root of 3 over the square root of 3. This then becomes 6 square root of 3 over 3. Now, I have 6 and 3 outside of the radical. 3 is a factor of 6, so I can reduce this, and my final answer is 2 square root of 3. Okay. And our last one, again, we cannot reduce from outside the radical to inside. We can't reduce inside the radical, so we're going to multiply by an equivalent fraction of 1. Since square root of 3 is in the denominator, we're going to multiply by the square root of 3 times the square root of 3. So here we have 6 times. We're going to multiply these two together. 2 times 3 is 6. Again, when you take the square root and multiply it by itself, you get the number underneath. We can reduce because they're both outside, and we get 2 square root of 6.